So I want to welcome all of you to the Extreme Ideas program series. At our department, we are deeply immersed in a research environment that anticipates changes and moves from the realm of ideas to their application and from present situation to the future. The Extreme Ideas series looks at the architecture beyond its traditional boundaries. We knew that the strongest contribution that we could add was to carry the narrative of modern architecture from its influential past to the future. So tonight's event, a discussion of extreme environment, is led by our faculty, Craig Hodgetts.
This is actually a very extreme environment we're in. I don't know if you know, this was dug out underneath the observatory by architect Brenda Levin. We have a lot of deep sea experience. We have tropical environments, and we have very, very heated environments, very, very, very cold environments. But all of these, on a cosmic scale, are just like a millionth of a millionth of a millionth of the actual temperature variations that you might find in the galaxy in general. We don't have to wear his and her spacesuits in order to survive. We're in a very, very special place.
So here you see at the giant neutral buoyancy lab out in Houston, we do more than just EVA spacewalking under the water. We actually practice, there was a cadre of folks who believed we could parachute out of the space shuttle if we had to. So this is one of the practice exercises they put us through.
The way we do it on our airplane is we take it's a 727, just like you guys have probably all flown on, and we go up to about 35,000 feet and basically just push over the top like a roller coaster and go down to about 25,000 feet. And in there you get about 20 seconds of float time in the middle of the cabin, which is pretty extraordinary, and it's pretty gentle. It's not like a roller coaster. If you have your eyes closed, you really can't even tell that you're nose up or nose down. You just feel like you get real heavy at the bottom of the curve, and then you feel suddenly yourself getting a lot lighter, and then you start to just float up off the floor.
These vehicles have a driving range 2,000, 2,500 miles. And designing these classes of vehicles turns out to be extremely complicated. It's much more complicated than designing an airplane. It's much more complicated than designing a high-performance boat, because it turns out the dynamics of things that have to contact ground, terrain, mountains, go under 6 feet of water, cover ice. The things that these expedition vehicles are put through often are not what the designer of the vehicle expected.
There's a large movement, especially in Asia, to build buildings with topiary covering the entire high rise, and some vertical farming ventures. Probably, Bran, you know some of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, the interesting balance is always between choice of materials, choice of how things operate. Because on one level you say, isn't it lovely to have the brick building covered with ivy? It is, until the ivy destroys the brick. And so finding materials compatibility that make these visions happen is often a challenge, because you'll find in many of these cases, aesthetically, there's no argument, it's a great thing to do. Functionally, it's a great argument to do. And then the question is, how do you just get something that can actually do it for a long period of time?
That's where I got my start too, as an astrobiologist, was in bioregenerative life support, and up at NASA Ames. And one of my heroes, Greg Schlick up there, he was working on hydroponic systems on the ground. And one of the coolest things, is he would have these tilapia swimming around in the hydroponic bays with the plants growing up out of the water. Growing quinoa, because it has all the amino acids you need. If you ever get a chance to do closed loop stuff, in your buildings, that would be super cool.
But there is no active program to grow hydroponically on the space station right now. But I think that they do realize that is an omission, and there is a couple programs coming up I think we'll see here in the next couple of years.
What would you think then about some of the future thinking about totally managing all these systems with little microprocessors everywhere?
Well, it's happening now, meaning it's usually cheaper to build something with a microprocessor in it than build direct functionality into it.
When we set off for Mars, there's no Ace Hardware around the corner, and if something breaks, especially something that our lives depend on, we're going to need to be able to replace it, fix it, and we can't possibly take all the spares we need. So we're going to have to start manufacturing these things.
We're just at the dawn of 3D printing technology. The stuff that we're doing now is interesting and kind of kidding around. And it'll take 10 to 20 to 30 years before enough of the systems change to be able to embrace it. The country needs to reinvent itself. Our business model at the moment is borrow money from China, use it to buy oil from the Arabs, and then burn it. That's what we're doing, and it doesn't seem like a sustainable model to me. Maybe I'm missing something, but if you talk about sustainability, I don't really understand that. And the reality is, you need to reinvent yourself periodically, and you need to have the next generation take over.
You already can see it. I mean, you already see SpaceX, the first privately built, thing to dock with the space station and deliver, I was going to say ice cream, but that belittles their achievements. Scientific payloads and hardware that's very important to the space station.
They took cheese.
And ice cream. It was a scientific freezer, but you can't just send it up empty. I mean, come on.
So my 2 cents is what I think is going to drive it. You know what? It all comes down to the business. It all comes down is it a sustainable business? Because the living joke right now out there is the quickest way to make a billionaire a millionaire is put them in the space business, and that's what a lot of them have done. But until this is a self-sustaining, viable business where there is a destination that people can go to in space, we're going to stagnate. There has to be that place to go, and the people who are willing to do it.
The American spirit, I find, is uniquely good at combining art and science and design and engineering all together. It's why we have the film business, the special effects business, the video game business, transportation, aviation, a whole bunch of things that came from that ability to combine art and science in a unique way. And I think that is a uniquely American trait.
To me, an architect is it's that marriage between the engineering and the art. It's the one that takes, it's the one that takes something that everybody wants and makes it doable.